Second, remain in me. Now, disciples were clean and ready to do the works of God. But fruit bearing requires one more step to go. That is, to remain in Jesus. Look at verses 4 through 6. Let's read these verses together. 4 through 6. Let's go. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If a man remains in me, and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he is like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. In these 3 verses, Jesus uses the word remain 6 times. So, remain, 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 remain. Wow, that is Jesus' message for us, for all Christians. Really. Remaining in Jesus is the most important thing for Jesus' disciples, for all Christians. This shows Jesus' burning wish for his disciples to remain in him. They had been with Jesus for 3 years. As they were submissive to Jesus and followed him, Jesus could shape them up according to his plan and purpose. He had established them as Bible teachers, leaders, and shepherds. Now they were living according to God's will and purpose as God's servants. But now, Jesus had to leave them and go home in heaven. Now, Jesus' burning wish for them was that, despite his absence, they would remain in him continually, as they had remained in him for the past 3 years. He wished that they would continue to live as his disciples, as God's servants, taking care of God's flock, just as they had been doing, even when he was not with them physically. When they did so, when they remained in him, then he would continue to lead them, shape them up, and fulfill his purpose upon them. Only when they remained in Jesus continuously, as the branches of the true vine, they would bear great fruit in their lives. They would do important things for God, and they would become great. At that time, their life would be truly fulfilling and meaningful. And when their life goes that way, they would be really happy. They would be truly satisfied. They become truly important, valuable, precious, and even glorious, both to God and to people. Remain. This is the most important thing for Christian's life. The word remain implies certain period of time. And at the same time, consistency. Let's say someone is in Jesus and then goes out of Jesus for a while, later comes back and forth continually. How can that branch bear fruit? So remain, it means there is a certain period of time until fruit bearing comes. Until then, you consistently stay in Jesus. And during that period of time, the branch, as a branch struggles to remain in the vine, there may be many challenges, obstacles, and difficulties, such as some bugs bothered it continually. Oh, so itchy. Or strong wind may blow on it. But no matter what, the branch must remain in the vine continually. As we struggle to live according to Jesus' plan and purpose, we come to have difficulties. Some people have financial difficulty. They are dedicated to God's work all the way, so they have financial difficulty. Or they have academic difficulties. But still, despite such difficulties, we remain in Jesus, living according to His will and purpose. Sometimes, as we struggle to remain in Him, we have sorrows and pains caused by some misunderstanding of our beloved people. They persecute us and they think we have abandoned them when we love them really. There is deep pain really. Means still embracing such pains and sorrows, even shedding tears, we keep doing what Jesus wants us to do. Psalm 126 describes a real Christian life very well. It says, "Those who sow in tears will reap with the songs of joy. He goes out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with the songs of joy, carrying sheaves with him." How come this passage says, sowing with tears, weeping, he who goes out weeping? Why? Because in sowing the seed, there is pain and sorrow. So we weep a lot. Sheep may just tell us the things so casually without knowing that because of that, shepherds go home and they cry and cry all night long. But they still keep sowing. Then at the harvest time, they sing songs of joy. As we serve God's work, often we carry deep sorrows and pains in our hearts, but still we and asking students, "Would you be interested in studying the Bible?" "No thanks." "Okay." While carrying such pains and sorrows, we still teach and preach the Word of God. In that way, we remain in Jesus' will and purpose, both in good times and in bad times. No matter what, we do what He wants us to do. As we do so, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, our life is being built up. Our perspective, our understanding, our value system, all shaped up as God's servants. Then, at the right time, God's will be done in our life. We are being sanctified in that way. Indeed, we become God's workmanship. God has shaped us up that way for His purpose. Then we end up seeing God's great vision coming true in our life. We become fathers and mothers of many nations. We become fishers of men. We become a source of blessing that through us, God brings His blessing to so many people in the world. When you remain in Jesus, you bear good fruit according to God's plan. What will happen if anyone does not remain in Jesus? Not good at all. In the passage, Jesus shows us repeatedly what terrible things will happen to that person if any of his disciples does not remain in him. Verse 4b says, "No branch can bear fruit by itself." Verse 4c, "Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me." Verse 6, "If anyone does not remain in me, He is like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If anyone does not remain in Jesus for whatever reason he may have, that person cannot bear good fruit. Nothing. Moreover, that person's life withers moment by moment because he becomes like a branch that is cut off from the vine. Such branches are thrown and withered. Here the word wither illustrates the life of those who do not remain in Jesus very well. They wither. Maybe for success or money, they go out of Jesus' will. Maybe for a romantic relationship or for their marriage dream, they go out of Jesus' will and purpose. At first, they feel good at the thought of having secured what they have desired. But as time passes by, their life withers in them moment by moment. They come to lose joy, peace, little by little. Then eventually, they completely wither that nothing can make them joyful or happy any longer. Simply, they are spiritually dead. Such branches are good for nothing but firewood. Jesus talked to them about this over and over again to make sure that his 11 apostles understood that once they did not remain in him, they would wither. They would become nothing but firewood. And thereby they would never go out of his will, but remain in him. That's why he talked about this over and over again. Even apostles, 11 apostles would be like that. Then what about ordinary Christians like you and me? Of course, the same thing will happen. Whether they secured their dream job or not, whether they successfully built a dream family or not, all these people withered. And their life carries no value and meaning. All these people die sorrowfully, regretting terribly of their wrong choice. This is Jesus' warning for all his beloved people, for all Christians. Actually, when we study the Bible, we find that this is God's warning for all mankind from the beginning of God's creation. After creating the universe, the heavens and the earth, and giving the first man Adam the perfect paradise, the Garden of Eden, God told him very clearly to not go beyond his will and purpose, saying, you are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat of it, you will surely die. But alas, Adam, the first man, did not take this warning so seriously. He took it something optional. As a result, he and all his descendants came to die. When God brought the Israel people out of Egypt, he told them about the blessings when they obeyed of disobeying his commands. He had Moses tell all Israel people about this. And later, he had 6 tribes stand on Mount Gerizim to pronounce blessings if they obeyed God's commands. And the other 6 tribes stand on Mount Ebal to pronounce curses if they disobeyed God's commands. Deuteronomy chapter 27 and 28 talk about this. An interesting thing is that God mentioned about blessings in 14 verses, while curses in 66 verses. That was his warning for them. All kinds of terrible curses he mentioned about, so that they would not make any mistake about that. If they disobeyed God's commands, really terrible things would happen, and they would be really destroyed. They would really understand that. God really warned them about it. He tried to engrave these warnings into their hearts so that they would never go beyond, violate His commands. But these people didn't pay attention to God's warning, so they were destroyed and suffered terribly. Now in the New Testament, God came to the world in the form of a human, and He found a group of people, a small number of people who loved Him. So He gave them the same direction, blessings and warnings. He used very strong words. No branch, must, nothing, thrown away, withers, thrown into the fire and burned. It is never Jesus' intention that one of you will be like this. So His earnest desire, His earnest wish is that you take this warning so sincerely and seriously and make all possible efforts to remain in Him no matter what. Maybe you lose a lot, still you remain in Him. Maybe it's painful, still so costly, still you remain in Him. No one understands you, yet still you remain in Him. That's what God desires. Jesus wants. Jesus was like a mother who is going to be on a trip, leaving her children behind. Before leaving, to make sure that nothing terrible shall happen to her children, she would give all important instructions to them, saying, don't play with the fire. Don't turn on the gas. Don't go out to the streets. She would tell them everything. That's what Jesus was doing. He warned them continually and strongly that they must not make any mistake in this matter. Otherwise, they would be like a branch that is thrown away and withers, only to be picked up and thrown into the fire and burned. So many people do not consider this seriously. As a result, terrible things have happened. While they say, I'm a Christian, I love God, but their life is going really terribly. No wonder in America, this so-called Christian country, the divorce rate among church-going people is higher than that of unbelievers. Who can believe this really? Their fruit testifies loudly of what they have become. Not branches of the vine, but dried wooden sticks that are good for nothing but firewood. Jesus' message is this: remain in me. Jesus' heart's anguished message for all of us is this: remain in me. Let's say this together. Remain in Jesus. Okay, we shout this. 1, 2, 3. Remain in Jesus. This is the most important message for all Christians. If a man remains in me and I in him, he will bear much fruit. Then Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing.